Hello friends, welcome to Summer Weenie.
What the fuck is it like then, Keisha?
If you listen, I'll tell you.
You tell me. I can't wait to get my hands on this food. Come on out, cuz.
Right, cut it out. You're gonna make it mad.
I don't give a fuck, Keisha.
As far as I know, this is our only channel tradition. I bring in a ginormous collection of horror, and that is all that you see from me for 2 months straight. Every week, I will have something different. I will have something under a different theme. I'm going to have different horrors, different classifications of horrors, different years of horrors, different types of horror. And that is all we're doing until September 1st, July and August. That is when you get this from me. Now, before we actually get into the books, I do want to say that throughout this tradition, throughout this holiday, the words that you will hear a lot of buzzwords I use around Summerween time, and a little bit of a clarification. All of the books that I have here are classified, are marketed, and are spoken about like a horror. So for July and August, I don't rate the books based on how good they are in a blanket sense. The ratings you get this month will be a 1 to 5 on how good of a horror it is. I can see a book as fantastic, but if I don't see it as a good horror, it is going to get a bad rating from me. Now, with that, there are a few buzzwords that I will be using throughout the tradition. And that is, I am going to be using the word intrigue, the intrigue of the story. Because one thing about a horror is that element of, do I care what's in the basement? Do I want to know what's in the basement? Is this book leading me into wanting to strap my boots on and go out into the cemetery, go outside and hear that sound? So intrigue is going to be a huge element of what I talk about. I will bring up gore, of course, just to warn you about gore. I will be warning you of all triggers as I experience them. And I also, something I didn't do much last year, but I want to be better about discussing in some way. I don't know yet if I'm going to include a spoiler talk in every single vlog, or if I will just talk about the ending in a way that doesn't spoil it. If you have any strong opinions of that, please leave a comment below on if you would love a spoiler section in every single video. Like, I can film the vlog, and then those can be our closing statements. I discuss each and every ending, because one thing I was thinking about when I had gone and seen Sinners is, and there are so many stories, fantasy I think of specifically, and romance I also think of, and dystopia novels, where the ending is something that I'm very lenient on. If it's open, if there's threads that haven't been handled, I'm very lenient on endings on a lot of different genres. But one thing I've noticed about myself, and again, Sinners is the one that brought this up to me, is the ending of a horror needs to be good. Like, so part of my overall horror rating will be going into the ending itself. I will be discussing how the ending affects the entire book, because there's something about it. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something about horrors where they need to have intrigued me and brought me along and scared me, that again, fear is going to be discussed in all of these books as well. The scary elements of it, and then how you bring me to the end. That end is important. So those are all the elements. Those are the words you're going to be hearing. You're going to be hearing me talk about intrigue a lot. You're going to be hearing me talk about triggers and fear a lot, and the elements of fear and motifs a lot this summer. But intrigue is one that I do bring up a lot in this, and I did really deeply need to clarify, and I'll say it one more time. I'm not rating these books as a general good book. For 2 months, we rate if it is a good horror book. Let's get into these books. Now, this is 99% of what we will be reading this Summerween. There are a few books that I want to do for like a new releases video. And you know, the library hold system for new releases, you're playing with time. So there's a few new releases that I don't know if I'll get in time, so you won't see those. And then audiobooks. I'm so iffy on if I include audiobooks into a video, just because if I don't like the narrator on a personal level, it won't show up. So audiobooks you won't see today. That new releases video you won't see today. And the final video I have for the end of Summerween is I'm pulling together and doing what I can to find the scariest books in a subjective sense, like the things that scare me the most. I'm putting together that video and seeing what I want to have there. Because we're going to DNF. There's going to be DNFing. And I think it's important to know like where I DNF and how far I get into books. And I don't know how to put together a scariest book video and it not be 2 minutes long because I'm too scared. But again, like if you see a 2-minute video come out at the end, you know why. Okay, can we get into these books already? I have 2 books that have been hauled before, so I'm not going to say too much about them. I just think that I wanted to bring them into this. Now, one of them is When the Reckoning Comes. This had been something I hauled for last Summerween and didn't make it just because I overextended myself a little bit. And I really want to get to it. The general premise is that you have a childhood friend who decided to have her wedding on a plantation. And the ancestors are not having it. Next, I've hauled it before. I do have The Reformatory. I hauled it before because this is a book I'm very excited about. It's just a book that always has holds on it, and the hold system gets me sometimes. So I've had to return this to the library like twice this year. It's been hauled before, but I am making it's gonna be in Summerween. I'm not gonna lose out on this one again. We will be reading this for Summerween. Those are all the books that you have seen from me before on this channel. Everything else has not been hauled before, so they are new to the channel. The first book that I have is called Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. There is a couple who are freshly celebrating their new nuptials by booking a getaway cabin. However, as their trip extends, there's screaming heard. Not animals, there's screaming heard outside of their window. There's a dark figure looming outside of their window. And the talking that the new bride is doing in her sleep isn't just her normal, usual sleep talking. She's responding to something. I then have Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin. Now, the reason I picked up Rosemary's Baby, I will be going into this one pretty blind. It's that when I am putting other horror books on hold or I'm looking into other horrors, a lot of these I kept seeing in descriptions or reviews that it was very much like Rosemary's Baby, or this had elements of Rosemary's Baby. Rosemary's Baby is one of those books that if you read horror, somebody is going to say it is akin to. I think it's one of those foundational type of horrors. Next up, I have Nowhere by Allison Gunn. This falls more into that category of thriller horror, or thriller with very horrific horror elements and leanings, because you open up with Rachel, who is like the new sheriff in town. She is relocating, moving, because she's dealing with a lot of home trouble. Her alcoholic husband is the cause of the loss of her child. A lot of grief is there. So she just sort of buries herself and drowns herself in work. Now, in this sort of fundamentalist type of town, there is a horrible crime, and then children start getting called to the forest. And Rachel, as this new sheriff, this crime, this sort of horrific series of events, hits a little too close to home. Now, the next book I have was recommended to me by a friend. I have a friend who loves a lot of those like foundational horror type of books. So this falls into that same category as Rosemary's Baby. These books that people talk about because they sort of have a lot of nostalgia towards it. I haven't seen the associated movie with this. I might watch the movie as part of whatever vlog I throw this one in. And I don't really know what it's about. I just know that there's a pinhead. Does that sound about right? The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker is the other book that I have. I'm so excited for this. For somebody who is so afraid of everything and who genuinely cannot handle horror, something about this is just so exciting to me. Next on this stack, I have more of a monster horror. And that is Flowers for the Sea. It tells the story of a society, a community of people who are the last of their kind. Their entire existence has been wiped down to just them. And as they are on this boat traveling away, there are some very sharp-toothed things in the water. But our main character happens to be very special in this because she's pregnant and she will be giving birth to the first of their community, of their society, of their culture since they're leaving, since their decimation. Not sure what else it's about. I just know it's small and I wanted some good small options in all of this because I do have some pretty big books in here. The next book I have is another one that features a detective, and that is Last Days by Brian Evanson. You have a detective who, in order to solve a mystery, integrates himself into a religious cult. The next book I have is one of those books where I am 99% sure whatever vlog it shows up in, it's just going to be a game of how quickly I DNF it, because it has a horror trope that I am so scared of. I don't care what anybody says. There is a horror trope that I personally cannot handle. And that is the imaginary friend trope. When a child stands at the edge of your bed and is like, "Hey, mommy, can I have an extra cracker for my friend John over there?" Absolutely the F not. I would get rid of my child. I can make another one of you. You're replaceable. I can pop another one of you out. I can't handle it. The imaginary friend thing, the cover of this one, this one's not gonna last. It's really not. I'm so afraid of that book. The little blurb is by Nat Cassidy. And I really enjoy Nat Cassidy. Nat Cassidy actually got a 4-star from me last summerweenie with the book Nestlings. The blurb by Nat Cassidy says, "Let him in is spider legs across your neck, a snake caressing your ankles, a shadow outside your bedroom at midnight." No. It's not long either. I will DNF that book at the introduction. You can't make me read that one. I'm going to be so real with you guys. I'm getting hot. The next book I want to say I already had on a reading list for this couple of months, but there was a channel bestie that shouted this author out, asked for this author, and it only made me more excited because this is one of the subscribers that doesn't miss with the books that they like. We have The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I think this is so creepy. Look at that little eye. I don't know anything about it. When I got it in, I didn't even look it up because I'm like, Shirley Jackson, well known. I'm pretty sure this author truly stands the test of time in the horror realm. And then the subscriber shout out for Shirley Jackson. I trust it. I don't even need to know. I don't want to know. I'm afraid. Those books that stand the test of time terrify me, because what is happening here for this to be known as one of the horrors? You know, like, does it make it extra scary? Is it just well written? I don't know. I'm afraid of it. Next, we have Housewoman by Adora Nowora. This is a story of a woman who enters into an arranged marriage. But once she gets to America, a place that she sees is so shiny, as full of opportunity, she's so excited to be that housewife and be who she can in her new life. She's truly excited for this. There's just something not quite right about the family she's coming into. The next book is called The Cut by CJ Dotson. There is a woman and her toddler who have recently escaped her abusive husband. And she comes into this job as a housekeeper at a hotel motel type of thing. But something isn't quite right. There are things that are going bump in the night. There are clogged drains that seem to have something spooky coming out of them. There are video cameras and security cameras that are going out. They're missing guests. I don't know if that one's a haunting or a monster book, but I think part of the reveal is figuring out just which one that one is. Next, I have Just Like Mother by Anne Heltzel. You have two cousins who haven't spoken since one cousin moved away from the religious cult that they both grew up in. However, they reconnect as adults. But in this reconnection, the one who had escaped starts feeling like this friendship between them, this reconnection with the cousin, she's not quite feeling the friends that the cousin has made in adulthood. She's spending weekends there and she's spending so much time there, but she's getting triggered. She's seeing things that are reminding her of childhood and she doesn't know if it's all in her head or if her cousin never quite escaped their childhood. Up next, I have Senseless by Ronald Murphy. This is described as a horror noir. Not sure what that means. I'll look it up later. I'm not versed in the vocabulary of this genre. I'm new here. This book was also a finalist in the Bram Stoker Awards, which I think is just awards given to horror books. So this is one of the finalists. It's more renowned, but you open up with Detective Bill. And Bill is just outside of LA witnessing a horribly mutilated body. That body happens to remind him of a different case that he had a while back. In another POV, you have a woman who is increasingly unnerved by her new partner's son. And then in a third POV, you have a man that meets an unforgettable and special woman at a bar. Not sure how all of those things interact. That's what I got from the inner flap, and I'm just not sure. Like, I'm not scared by that. It does give detective. It doesn't give horror, thriller, horror, detective, horror, mystery. It just gives detective. So I'm not sure what's going to come of that one. But it almost won a Bram Stoker thing. Unless Bram Stoker's a mystery award, I've misled myself. I then have, now hear me out. I know this guy, this author, is a problem. I'm not reading this person because I don't think they are a problem. I also got it from the library. So I haven't paid anybody to read this. But in the effort of me reading things and seeing books that reference to, or seeing books that always bring up a certain word, or seeing reviews that are like, this is very blank, I just felt as if I should at least do a dabblance in H.P. Lovecraft. I know he doesn't like my people. I know there's problems. I do know. But what people who wrote classics aren't? We're now on to my second stack of books. And up first, I have Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chaplin. This is the story of Silas, who is really interested and has found out about a pill that helps you connect with ghosts. Well, Silas has passed, and his grieving friends remember that Silas had brought up this pill. And in their grief, it's starting to sound like a really good idea. I then have Pinata by Leopoldo Gout. This story follows a mother and her kids who go to Mexico because as part of her job, she will be supervising the restoration of an abbey. There is an incident that results in her losing her job. But when she and her daughters fly back to New York, it seems as if something has followed them. This cover, I'll put the cover on the screen so you can see it a little bit better. This cover is insane. In like a really cool kind of way. Like, is that a moth in the middle? It's super cool. Super creepy. I think that one's a monster book. Not sure. A book that doesn't need any explanation and a little bit of my lore is one of my favorite movie franchises. I will not be talked down from it. Jaws by Peter Benchley. I like the movie. I hope the book is fun. I say that like fun in like a gruesome kind of way. Sorry? My bad. Okay, you remember earlier when I said I was reading Lovecraft because there were a lot of books that sort of reference Lovecraftian tales. This next book is actually a Lovecraft retelling, but told from the POV of a black man. That's the Ballad of Black Tom. Now, James didn't work for me, so I am hesitant going into another retelling of a classic, but this one's pretty small. We'll see how I feel about it. The next book I have was on a lot of lists when I was researching and looking for horror written by Black authors. It's the same author as The Ballad of Black Tom, but it was just on more lists. And that is The Changeling by Victor Lavalle, I don't know. But this is described as a mixing of, or like exists on that cusp of horror and fairy tale, which is exciting. I don't have anything else like that on the list. I then have Knock Knock Open Wide. This book is purely on my list because I think I remember Books and Lala recommending this, or Books and Lala loving this. I trust her. She is a horror queen, and I trust her. I don't know. I don't need to know what it's about. I don't need to know anything else about it. I've got a trusted source. The next story I have is by Anaya Allborn, and that is The Bird Eater. This is a story of a man who was orphaned as a kid and left his tiny little podunk hometown and vowed never to return. However, with the passing of his son, he's just sort of fallen into this horrible depth of grief and struggling to figure out how to reground himself and bring himself back to himself. He thinks maybe a return to his roots will help. However, the home he's staying in, which everybody refers to as the Devil's Den, has a little something spooky going on. We have a story of another man who is grieving and returning home, but this one is called Barat by Gabriel Smith. Now, there's another cover of this. The other cover of this is what made me grab it because, again, I saw it on a few lists. I'll put the other cover right here so you can see what that one looks like. Yeah, that cover is what got me here. It is a story of a man whose father has just passed. He is a struggling writer. He's feeling a little bit listless in life, but his mom asks him if he will help clean out his dad's house. And I don't really have any more notes. I think that's all it's about. I saw this kind of scary cover. Grief. I don't even know if it's horror, if I'm going to be honest. The cover is kind of creepy. It's got to be a horror. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm truly not to be trusted. I do know I have a few people here that get excited when I pull out a classic. For you, I've gotten Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I read this once back in college. However, my college reading is not to be trusted because I do think that reading as an adult and getting to take my time with a book versus reading quickly for a paper or reading quickly for a discussion, the speed that I have to read in college is very different than what I get to read as an adult. And in college, I don't think I really had the time to sit and take space or sit and reread. It was just plow through, get it done, get some notes, get a thesis. So this will be my second read, but first read as an adult, first read with leisure. And then 2 books that I do not need to give you any explanation of because it seemed wrong to do a summerweenie and not have some Stephen King in the stack. And one thing I realized is I've read quite a lot of Stephen King, but some of his most notable stories I have not read. Now, I'm just going to tell you right now. I've heard the premise of Misery. I am not interested in it. The violence and body horror of it all, I just don't see myself wanting to read that one. That's just not something I personally think I could get through. So it's not Misery that I have here. I have The Shining. And did you remember when I said I had some big books? You remember that? Let me just grunt my way. We have It by Stephen King. Do you guys remember, was it back in like 2015 when they were all the clowns? Do you remember that? Is that just me? Do you guys remember that? That was such a crazy time in history. Yeah, we have It. I know that this is foundational in the world of horror. I also haven't seen the movie. Again, maybe we'll watch it together. If you want to watch a movie together, you want it in a vlog, you want to talk movies, I can include the movie in this. If you would like, just let me know. But that's all I have for you. That is my stack of books. That is what I plan to read. And one thing I emphasized a teeny bit, but I would like to emphasize a little bit harder. If I'm scared, I will be DNFing. I'll let you know when I DNF. There's no point during summerweenie where I don't get to pull the weenie card and say, I can't handle this. I am scared. We all know, let him in. I've got 1 page in me for that book. In that vlog, I will tell you how that page was. If you see any short videos, it's because I was scared for every single book I planned. If you see any videos that are 30 seconds long, it's because I could not handle it. Welcome to Summerweenie.